The global economy is undergoing a trillion-dollar migration. Capital is flooding into the infrastructure required to train artificial intelligence, and the battleground for this wealth is centered inside the data center. This chart comparing revenue from the end of 2024 reveals an oligopoly with a lopsided distribution of wealth. While legacy giants like Intel and AMD hover below the $4 billion mark, Nvidia pulled in over $35 billion in a single quarter. Between 2020 and 2024, Nvidia's share of the global semiconductor market surged from under 2% to over 6%. They are steadily draining market share away from established competitors. Public focus usually stays on the physical microchips, but hardware alone cannot explain a financial gap this wide. Nvidia's competitors have billion-dollar research budgets and the engineering talent required to reverse engineer fast silicon. Furthermore, Nvidia outsources the production of its advanced chips. They rely heavily on third-party fabrication plants like TSMC to physically build their hardware, leaving them exposed to supplier pricing and geopolitical disruptions. Since the physical hardware advantages can be easily matched by rivals, the mechanism driving this massive market capture is digital. Nvidia's trillion-dollar empire is built on a 20-year strategy to deploy a proprietary software ecosystem called CUDA. It is a digital snare that successfully captured the computing economy. Nvidia transitioned from supplying graphics cards for PC gamers into a full-stack computing infrastructure company. At the center of that transition is CUDA. This proprietary software platform allows developers to optimize how code runs on Nvidia's GPUs, making it the industry standard for training complex AI models. Over 2 decades, CUDA has integrated itself so deeply into global data workflows that developers are effectively locked in. Moving an engineering team and their legacy code to a competitor's hardware requires extensive reinvestment, creating prohibitive switching costs. This graph illustrates inelastic demand. Because institutions require CUDA, buying habits barely change when prices rise. Insulated from normal price competition, Nvidia dictates terms based on strategic value instead of cost. That leverage translates software dominance into historic margins. CUDA functions as a financial instrument, ensuring consistent returns by removing the user's ability to choose an alternative. That lock-in is enforced across multiple layers. Nvidia vertically integrates its GPUs with proprietary platforms like DGX and HGX, woven together by their own AI networking technology. To maintain this fortress, the company engages in what economist Joseph Schumpeter called creative destruction. Regulators are purposely obsoletes its own product, pouring $12.9 billion into research and development to ensure they stay ahead of the market. The resulting barrier to entry is high. A challenger cannot simply design a faster chip to win market share. They have to replicate an entire ecosystem of software and hardware integration from scratch. You can see the result in the performance metrics. Because Nvidia optimizes every layer of the stack, their Blackwell B200 system delivers nearly 4 times the throughput of an isolated competitor chip like AMD's MI325X. The physical hardware is the delivery mechanism for a closed, vertically integrated system designed to make competitive disruption mathematically difficult. Capturing 95% of the AI infrastructure market has triggered a coordinated global response. Regulators are tightening their grip. The United States Department of Justice launched an antitrust investigation targeting Nvidia's pricing and distribution practices. Geopolitical friction is also exposing financial vulnerabilities. U.S. export controls aimed at China recently cost Nvidia a $4.5 billion charge on unsold inventory and up to $8 billion in lost revenue. Simultaneously, a rebellion is forming in the private sector. Coalitions of developers and startups are attempting to democratize AI compute, building open-source, hardware-agnostic frameworks to bypass the CUDA monopoly. A closed proprietary ecosystem generates wealth, but it also forces the market's immune system to attack, breeding enemies from federal regulators to open-source disruptors. Nvidia is now executing a comprehensive strategic pivot to defend its position. They are embedding their architecture into the backbone of the internet, aligning with AWS, with Microsoft Azure, and with Google Cloud. At the same time, they are pushing their ecosystem into physical technologies, cementing long-term autonomous driving and logistics alliances with companies like Toyota and Uber. By hardwiring their architecture into the global digital fabric, Nvidia is making its technology an essential part of the modern economy. Nvidia is fighting to ensure its software remains the permanent, undisputed operating system of the artificial intelligence age.